Hello, everyone, and welcome into the USL show. It's that time of year. The playoffs have arrived. But before we get to that, we have some business to attend to. First and foremost, I want to introduce the co-hosts here today, starting with you, Alex. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. I went to the Henny Derby this weekend and saw Richmond basically drag Madison into hell.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it for Halloween. Yeah. Ryan, how about you? How has life been treating you?
Yeah, doing well and just really looking forward to gaining the additional hour of sleep this weekend.
Yeah, always weird timing when I'm trying to see when a match is going to be on Sunday and I know the time is wrong, but it's not clicking for me mentally. But the sleep is nice, I guess. Phil, how about you? How has life treated you?
It's been good. Business end of the USL season, and somehow El Paso Locomotive has a home playoff game. So, how have we gotten here? Who's to say?
Good for you.
Life is weird like that sometimes. Well, before we dig into a little bit of news and then a lot of playoff previewing, gotta thank the patrons who helped us get out to Portland. Maybe will help us get out to some travel late in the year here. But starting first and foremost with John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Christopher Cohn, John Fuller, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Rian Lacara, Tim Knox, NF Reg 30, MOS, Kunal Patel, Olive the Hedgehog, Andrew Towsley, Madcap Peel, Ryan Smeltzer, Sandy Lester, William Lamb, Dylan Reed, Josh, Matt B., David Horn, Luke Loudon, Don Garber, and John's Landlord. Thank you all for supporting us. Thank you to anybody that wants to consider that. We'll have the link in the show notes at some point. Yeah. So
I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it going. Second week in a row. Why do I not see Andrew Cuomo back in the USL show yet? And if you are a true patron, Andrew, step up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no one tell Andrew how I voted if that's the case.
Just give us your money.
Yeah. Well, as noted, I do think we should start with some news because pretty eventful decisions coming in League One and the Championship this week. Let's start with the Oakland situation. Fresh off of not making the playoffs, the Oakland Roots decided, and I think they said it was mutual, that they aren't going to be bringing Benny Feilhaber back to the club next season. I think it was a decision that caught some people by surprise. He's been pretty well considered for the job he's done. With a roster that he didn't build, going through a lot of injuries, he didn't get Oakland into the postseason, yes, but I think everybody who watched that team saw the effort improve, the tactics sharpen up. Love to get some thoughts on the coaching carousel that seemingly never ends in the East Bay.
Yeah, they're going a little bit Watford in that it's like the one constant in the championship is that Roots are not going to maintain their head coach. It's a strange one because I think it's fair to say that the Feilhaber appointment was felt like a bit of hype chasing, and maybe it was like trying to get in the news cycle and all that sort of stuff. And the results were pretty good. So I think it's a little bit strange where it's like you can certainly see it from the one standpoint of well, we want to build something maybe more real and sustainable and all this sort of stuff. And if the form that Feilhaber showed over this stint had been the entire season, if you extrapolate that out, Roots are probably a playoff team. So it's just a very strange decision. I think ultimately, I just hope whatever decision that Oakland makes is the one that they will ultimately stick with, because I think there's probably a lot of people around USL right now who are like, this feels like a poison chalice. Why would I take this job? And I think whoever they back next, they have to back for real, and they have to be willing to put some oomph behind not only the signings, but just giving that person time to find some footing and actually get this team where it probably deserves to be in the West.
Yeah, I mean, in talking with a handful of coaches this week, there's very much the sense of it would take a lot to get me to come to Oakland just because there is this trigger happy reputation they're building. And that's not to say that they aren't going to make a good hire. I think it's an attractive challenge for an ambitious manager to say, I'm going to go to that community that is in the Coliseum, that is going to be getting their own stadium at some point in the nearish future, is willing to spend on players. That's something that I think I can tackle because I'm an ambitious coach. That said, I completely agree with you. At some point, you need to stick with a guy. You need to stick with a vision of what this team is going to be. It only gets harder when you are working with a roster that is part Gavin Clinton, part Jordan Farrell, a little bit of Benny. Nobody really knows the direction, and it really lessens the level across the board.
I was going back through and counting. This will be their 8th different manager since 2019 for the Oakland Roots whenever they make this next hire after Benny Feilhaber. Like, we're getting into like repeated attempts to reboot the DC Universe level of like new coachings going into the Oakland Roots at the moment. But yeah, it really is going to be interesting to see where the Roots kind of look towards next. And I do echo, Phil, your thoughts, just saying that this team needs to stick with a manager at some point without trying to, reboot and reinvent themselves every offseason when things don't work out. And honestly, for any team that has an opening right now, Benny Feilhaber might not be a bad option to go after. I'll be very interested to see where he ends up for his next role.
MLS assistant.
Feels likely, unfortunately. Well, with that, let's dip down into USL League One / League Two, where Texoma, in maybe not a bit of surprising news, decided that they were going to be dropping down a league. That is interesting in and of itself. It's good to see them survive at a bare minimum. What else was notable in the press release from the league was that there is apparently a future for League One in North Texas, with details coming in the next few weeks. So a lot to bite off there. Alex, I know you are hot on the beat with the Texoma news. So what do you have here?
Yeah, it was like that one year where we really thought the league was going to be stable and nobody was going to leave. There had been some smoke across the last few months, but I thought they were going to make it, to be honest. Then at about 11:15 this morning, they dropped the bombshell that they were dropping down to USL League Two, like FC Tucson did a few years ago. But yeah, you're right. They also mentioned that they are open to I guess there's some sort of like partnership that they're developing in North Texas. There's this rumored project in Collin County, possibly McKinney, that we could see by 2027 that they may be involved with, but that's all remains to be seen. I know that the news did come to a shock to even some of the players, which a little bit unprofessional to do it that way, but I guess maybe they thought they were going to make it up until this morning. Who knows? Texoma will no longer be with us next year. As of right now, we have 20 teams in League One next year, and the schedules are set to be released either next week or the second week of November.
I like, with it being the 20 number and Texoma self-relegating, how much of this, I don't know. To me, this smacks of actually League One having a conversation, like, versus Texoma necessarily decided. Like, it feels like they were almost like, hey, an option for you would be to drop to League Two, and we'd be like, don't worry, you won't be like hurting us at all. Like, we'll just soldier on without you.
We heard that last year with Fuego and Noco, that definitely happened. I have not heard anything with that this year, which, like, the way that it came out makes me feel like they really thought that Texoma was going to make it. Like I said, with Noco and Fuego, they're definitely that those conversations were happening, and they were very public at times. There's been nothing really that we've heard with Texoma.
League One doesn't actually care that we're all 20 game single table truthers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that. I mean, I've had several team owners who are involved in the scheduling have told me that next year we're not going to do regionalization. It's going to be a nationwide table, and slightly unbalanced. So several, I think like there's going to be like a third rivalry match or two, just like this year, with the goal of going full balance in 2027.
Fascinating. We will see how that goes. The
I don't
expansion
like
never
that.
ends. Yeah.
I take no pleasure. I take no pleasure in talking about a team like Texoma like leaving the league. I
No,
I
for
don't
sure.
at all.
And I think that relates to like the important point about the vetting and how an organization like this comes about, where if you look at the Sherman Denison entire kind of metro, whatever, I'm not good with the census designations for urban areas, but
bizarre market.
they're
for
drawing
professional
from
team.
about 100,000 people total.
Yeah.
That is a very, very small pool for a league like League One, where you know what the demands are financially. Credit to them for trying, credit to them for continuing with what seems to be a growing academy setup. But I think it's the best solution at all parties for the end of the day right now. And I wonder how it will influence future admission decisions on the part of the league office.
Yeah, my hope for the future is that if there's a small market like this, that they at the bare minimum have a soccer specific stadium already,
Yes,
and not
for
a high
sure.
school football stadium like Portland. Portland can do it. They're doing just fine with their municipal stadium with football lines, but a market like Texoma, a little bit different.
Well, and it's kind of crazy that a project like Texoma starts in League One when a project like Fort Wayne starts in League Two and grows into League One. Like, you almost wish that Texoma did this the other way around, because it feels like something that can be real.
Yeah.
And why didn't they give it any time to kind of incubate? Whereas Fort Wayne is in a city of 200,000 plus with connections to other areas. And anyways, like,
Right.
And we didn't
your
even really
point.
need the additional team. Like, we could have done fine without Texoma coming in this year with all the other teams coming in, other four. But anyway, is what it is. Texoma will no longer be with us next year.
Okay, real quick before we get into actual League One playoffs, what did we think about the Fort Wayne brand?
I think it's funky.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I really
fine.
don't hate it. Like, I appreciate that they're bringing a new color scheme into the league.
That's exactly where
I
I was
like the old
going.
one.
Yep.
I like the old one, but I like the new the fresh color scheme.
Color scheme. And I will say, my coworker who is in Fort Wayne, unbeknownst, he does not know that I'm in any of this. And he's not connected to soccer at all. Like, he's just a guy in Fort Wayne. And he was like, we're getting a pro soccer team. And I was like, okay, that is true, like, market penetration.
That's
If
awesome.
this random guy, he doesn't watch any, like, he's older than me, definitely doesn't watch any other soccer, like, is just plugged into Fort Wayne stuff. And
It's prime
he
market
knows
right
about
there.
the team,
Yeah.
which is key. Like, that,
Yeah.
them knowing about the team does mean something differential. So
You
I
got to
think
get
that
people like
that
that.
is cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
that's great.
Yeah. Well, that is the future. For now, we have some playoff games to talk about. So I am going to load up the slideshow that Kaylor kindly threw together for us. I will bring it down in a minute to let us
goat.
show our faces. Sorry if you're anybody on whatever, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you. Go check out the YouTube channel if you want to see my weird lineups. In any event, we are going to be starting with the number 8 versus number 1 matchup in League One, where One Knox will be hosting the Charlotte Independents. Pretty even split as we saw these clubs play across the season. Charlotte won one, they drew. Knoxville won one of the games. That said, I think it's pretty clear that One Knox enters this match as the clear favorite. Alex, do you agree with that? And how do you see this going?
I do agree with that. Charlotte's kind of fallen backwards into the playoffs. They have not, they've won what? They've lost 8 of their last 10. They're struggling right now, to say the least. Gone through a goaltending change that hasn't really helped. They do have some bright spots. On paper, like, this should be a very competitive match. Yeah, I'm definitely giving the advantage to Knoxville because they haven't lost at Covenant Park. They have this cohesion with their squad that you just don't really see as much with Charlotte, and the defense. Like, I think that Knoxville takes this one in regular time without any really real problems.
Yeah, Phil, Ryan, we feeling the same way?
Yeah, like Knoxville hasn't lost at home since June 2024, to even go further back from this season as well. And when you're looking back through these,
that's crazy.
That's crazy.
And when you're looking
technically, they have one home loss, but it was in Richmond. Counted as a home loss, but they played it.
And they did lose to Indy 11 and the Jägermeister, but I've just been counting.
That doesn't count.
I love League One.
But also looking at it from Charlotte, like in those 8 defeats of their last 10, 5 of those were like 1-0 for their opponents, and then the other 3, their opposition scored the opening goal. It's so crucial that Knoxville has this game at home through the rest of the playoffs. Presumably, if they advance this far, I have them winning and scoring the opening goal as well.
Now, the wild card here is Charlotte's super sub, Sabaru Maru. He has scored 9. Let's see, I think I wrote down. He had he scored 7 of 9 off the bench, including 1 hat trick and 2 match winners. So if we're close, if we're tied, coming into maybe like the 65th, 70th minute, and he comes in, that could be trouble. But yeah, Charlotte just when they lost Luis Alvarez and Alfredo Medense back in May, they've been in kind of a decline ever since. They were hot then, and just haven't really figured out the best ways to get everything together without those two, which is crazy considering some of the talent they have on that roster. But yeah, that's what they're coming in with right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Charlotte. If they win this game, they're going to grind it out. If it's a shootout, it's going to go One Knox's way. And it won't be a shootout because this One Knox defense under Ian Fuller is really maybe the best in the league. For my money, I think Sievert Hugley and Jordan Skelton are the best center back pair that you've got in all of League One. I love the way he's reinvented Kempes Tequila as this kind of underneath the striker player that can still score, but is so creative and good on the ball in that spot. It won't be an easy win because the Independents do have a way of just kind of grinding games to their pace. But yeah, at Covenant Health Park, I have a tough time seeing anybody but Knoxville going the distance here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Knox, like heavy favorites. Because like you said, John, like their defense is also good where it's not like, oh, this is just a high flying team that you could, the whole idea of what do you do against a Lamborghini? Like you put them in a car park or whatever. Like that's the approach. It's like, but this Lamborghini's defense is also really good. So they're like, It's not like Charlotte can just park the bus and frustrate One Knox. Like they will struggle to score in that situation as well. So yeah, I mean, it's tough to look past One Knox, but again, one-off game, anything's possible.
Yep. Keep an eye on John Baccaro and Christian Chaney early on. If you can stifle that, I think that Knoxville can grind this one out.
Yeah. All right, with that, we will move on to the number 2 versus number 7 game, where the Chattanooga Red Wolves, the team that we hated in the preseason and love to watch now, are hosting Portland Hearts of Pine. Again, Chattanooga had the better of their matchups in the regular season. They won once and drew once, and that draw came pretty recently. The thing that I've been noting with Chattanooga is kind of out of nowhere changed formations as the season drew towards its conclusion. So that's going to be fascinating. Everybody and their brother saw Portland hang 6 goals on Spokane. They feel like the team that's got hot at the right time. Is there the possibility that Hearts of Pine get an upset here?
Possibility. I mean, this is going to be the chaos match of the League One round, first round playoffs. Absolutely, I expect at least one red card. I expect Chattanooga to really antagonize Portland early on. I really don't think that Portland is going to be able to win at Chattanooga. I think that this home pitch, it's going to feed into this brand of chaos that Chattanooga has, and they're gonna frustrate Portland early on. I really don't see Portland pulling the upset here. And I don't say that because I've been having a conversation the last few days with Chattanooga's assistant coach, Alex, who has really been rubbing in the fact that we all said that they were going to end last place. I really believe in Chattanooga in this playoffs.
Yeah.
I think scoring the opening goal of this one's going to be crucial. Chattanooga hasn't lost a game since scoring first since June 21st, and even farther back for Portland, they haven't lost since June 7th, although that match did come against Chattanooga in that last time out. But yeah, I really want to say Portland, just after the season they've had on and off the pitch, just kind of making waves in their kind of debut season here within USL 1. But Chattanooga has only lost 1 game at home all season, which has only been bettered by their in-state rivals in Knoxville. I think they're going to be a really tough side to beat at home.
Yeah, I mean, this is a scrappy team with no stars. Like, there's no traditional striker. Pedro Hernandez is a defender who has been playing striker and put up double-digit goals. If he scores early, this is over.
The thing that I will say for Hearts here is that what is that? I did not move the squares. Chad.
Yeah.
No, the thing that I will say for Hearts is, one, they have that explosive spark about them, and I think like if they are able to feed into the occasion at all, they have the people who can ignite this early on and sort of get Red Wolves unsettled. The other thing that I will say is that Red Wolves' form to end the season quite poor. And I like that Hearts, despite the fact that, they draw on the final day, they're scoring goals. And I think that is, like, not to oversimplify the game, but when it comes to playoff time, the teams that are hot in terms of scoring do often do quite well. I'm thinking about, like, Phoenix 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That run was fueled by not much in terms of like, oh, they're doing this really interesting thing tactically or this really. No, they just were coming up with clutch goals at all times. And so that's the one thing that I would say that is a bit of a wild card for this Hearts team is they just have difference makers who can pop up with goals. And Chattanooga, not in the best of form.
Yeah, it's kind of like a unstoppable object and Jason Smith just won the Golden Glove while also facing a very low amount of shots because the defense has just been that good in front of him. While Hunter Morse faces a lot of shots, but also finished in top 5 for the Golden Glove. It's going to be a very fun, scrappy, chaotic match, regardless of what happens here.
Yeah, for me, I think Portland's midfield really has to come up big. Like, we know Chattanooga is going to be direct. We know they want to play over the top. Mikey Lopez and Michel Punanjaran aren't the most physical presences you can have in that position. If they can bring it with that effort up the middle and stop Chattanooga from like tilting the pitch and getting into the attacking zone, that'll set the table for the attack to do the rest. And as like, if you can be Portland, you can fight them 50-50 in the midfield. That's going to set up a lot of what you want to see attacking wise. I don't know if it'll happen in Chattanooga against such a well-drilled team, but that feels like the formula in my mind.
And yes, to answer the question, I have heard that at least 30 Portland fans are making the trip down there. Somebody asked that in the chat.
Unreal. We love the Hearts of Pine supporters. We really do.
I mean, we had like 30 just random supporters in Richmond when they were here. Like, they travel well.
It's awesome. All right. Well, I would be highly impressed if any Tormenta supporters made the way over to Spokane, but that is the matchup, number 3 against number 6. Again, another one where we had a pretty recent game between these teams, a 1-1 draw. Spokane won 1-0 in a prior matchup earlier in the season. This, to me, pending what we talk about with the number 4 and 5 game, this could go anywhere. Tormenta is in such hot form. Spokane is a great team, but I don't know. It feels even in kind of that classic chaotic League One way.
Yeah, Spokane has been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch. Gone 3-3-4 since September. Had that one notable blowout loss at Portland, but it was also in the middle of a brutal road trip. They've got a well-rounded attack. They've got, Anwar Pelaez, Luis Hill, Nico Brett, 5 others with at least 2 goals. Kind of the same story with assists. 8 players have at least 2 assists. They've got elite playmakers that can send the ball in, from Hill to Lucky Opara, Neil Vinyals, Derek Waldeck, Siobhan John Brown. It just it almost seems like cheating to name these names on the same team. And then, the big question, I guess, at goal is Carlos Marancio going to get back into goal and back into his, form that he had before that 6-1 loss. I thought it was kind of notable that he was on the bench for the last game of the season against Omaha. But, Spokane has a 7-3-5 record at home. I think that there's a slight advantage for Spokane in that way, but also Tormenta's coming in very, very hot, as you said. Now Reed Steven has MVP level numbers, 13 goals, 7 assists. 11 of those goals have come since August, and including 3 braces. Bazzini has double-digit goals, and they're both first-year pros. So, we've got this team of hot rookies versus a team loaded with veteran talent. Tormenta has a 5.55 away record. And sometimes, maybe earlier in the season had kind of a reputation for being a little bit undisciplined. So I don't know. I think this one's a toss up, but I am actually going to go, if it goes to PKs, it's going to be Tormenta. If they stay disciplined, it's going to go to PKs, and Tormenta is going to win that one. If Tormenta is not disciplined, this is going to be Spokane in regular time.
Yeah, this was my one that I had Tormenta winning in an upset as well. Entering these game and their final 9 matches of the year, they went unbeaten, were held under multiple team goals only once in that 1-1 draw against Spokane, but they were outscoring opponents 26-7 in that time. And with the velocity, kind of down the stretch, they really seemed like they were fortunate enough that they held on to a home playoff game as they kind of just stumbled their way towards the end. My one pause over Tormenta is the fact that they've not won any of their 2 previous trips to Spokane, and we know how difficult travel is in this league, especially going to Eastern Washington, of all places, from Statesboro, Georgia. So it is going to be a really difficult challenge for Tormenta, but I think they can get it done. And honestly, you might find the best value betting wise on Tormenta to qualify here of any of the first round matchups in League One.
Okay.
Is there and maybe this is oversimplifying, but is there a little bit of a NoCo vibe to Tormenta right now of just really, really good goal scorer?
I think it's more of a Tormenta vibe. To be honest,
maybe
the 2022
classic,
Tormenta vibe.
Classic Tormenta.
These people that came out of nowhere, never heard of them, and now they're well, I mean, we've heard of Bazzini. He was really good in USL2 and NCAA, but like Reed
Sure.
Stevens, like, I mean, these guys like kind of,
Yeah.
they recruited a bunch of people. They cut like all but like 5 people in the offseason
Right.
and then brought in all these new players and got a new coach in the middle of the season and
Yeah.
and are going in very hot.
Yeah. I think it is one of those questions of just, did they get right at the hot time? And as Ryan said, can they survive the travel? Because we just know it is a brutal trip.
Yeah.
And so going to Spokane and getting a result is no easy feat, especially against a team that is as stacked. Like Spokane is a very, very good team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a tall order for Tormenta. I think credit's probably due to Tormenta for even being in this position, given where they were earlier this year.
Yeah, and Spokane will should be playing with a big chip on their shoulder after that road trip, and then coming home and having time to get back, get resituated at home. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and watching back some of the tape from the last time these teams met within the past month, it was the only time where Tormenta has really felt like they got slowed down as of late. Like Spokane held them to 0.4 XG. The organization that Lee Wiedemann had in that team felt like they had answers for Reed Stevens, felt like Bazzini had limitations for the first time in quite a while. I don't know if it can hold up. And I think the question around Spokane's form is pretty meaningful. Optimally, you want to be entering the playoffs on a hot streak. And Spokane had the big loss against Portland. They rotated the team in the final week. There isn't that chemistry that you want to have in this situation. I lean Spokane's way because I just trust what they're doing. And I think they've got some of those big name players. But Tormenta feels like a dark horse to go and just win this whole thing on form alone, frankly.
They remind me a lot of 2022. And one other thing to point out with this one is that this is Tormenta, who is the top offense. They've scored the most goals in the league this year. And Spokane, despite losing 6-1 at Portland and losing 3-0 in a forfeit, are still tied for third with the fewest goals conceded.
The forfeit. I love this league. Yeah. All right. So let's wrap it up with League One. We have FC Naples hosting Union Omaha. Again, split ticket across the matchups this season. Naples won one of the matches 3-1. Omaha took the other one 2-1. Omaha obviously has that narrative where they changed coaches, finished the season strong. Naples pretty consistent throughout this year. Not the highest highs, but not the lowest lows. That's why they're hosting a playoff game. A lot's going to depend on Carson Henderlong doing his thing, if you ask me. Do we think that Omaha is the favorite despite being the lower seed? That's at least the question I'm asking.
It's a toss-up. This is a true toss-up right here. Naples at home. They're 9-2-4. It's a slight advantage. But Naples has been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch with 4 wins and 4 losses since September, and since the start of September. They've got a strong defense backed by Lalo Delgado. You've got Carson Henderlong up front, made a run at the Golden Boot, scored 2 against Charlotte the other day. But then Omaha, I mean, they're like the hottest team in the league over the last few months. They're on a 12-match streak with no losses, with 8 wins. They've got the assist champion, man. And I think Omaha is going to come in a bit salty that they're not hosting. The last match of the season, they were set to host. They drew Spokane. Naples beat Charlotte, so Naples jumped ahead. So now Omaha has to travel. I mean, it's good for the rest of us. We don't have to watch a game on TV at Werner Field. I'm sorry. I hate that. Love you, Omaha
true,
fans.
yeah.
I love you, Omaha fans, but the rest of the league just hates watching matches on TV at Werner. But yeah, like this is a toss up. Like I said, I'm going to give that very tiny slight advantage to Naples due to home pitch, but yeah.
I mean, as for my ELO ratings that I've kept track of this season, it would have Omaha as the third best team in the league right now. Like the fact that they ended the year 12 matches unbeaten, winning 8 of those games is just absolutely phenomenal. And like this team was toiling
This is
away
Omaha
outside of
things.
the outside of the playoff picture, and they've roared back into the postseason. And they're also still like the defending champions. They know what to do when they get to this stage of the postseason, and because they've done it before. I think the odds are going to be very interesting to see when they actually publish later this week. And it wouldn't shock me to see Naples as the favorite, but I think Omaha should be the favorites in this game, and they're the team I have advancing. And I think they'll do it in normal time.
And the flip side to that is that Omaha is doing this, and they're led by people, except with the exception of Charlie Ostrom, like their scoring leaders weren't even on the team last year. They came in, a lot of them came in even mid-season.
Yeah, I was going to say they weren't
started putting up numbers
yeah.
mid-season. Yeah. So I mean, this is kind of like a new look Omaha almost from last year.
Yeah, I don't know, like Omaha's form has me thinking that like not only are they favorites to advance in this round, like they are one of the teams to watch to win the whole thing. It's not even about being there before, because like you guys have said, like there's been a lot of turnover. It's just about this squad right now is clicking at the right time, clicking in a way that feels repeatable, feels like consistent. And yeah, they draw on the final day to Spokane, but I mean, Spokane, obviously a different sort of prospect than Naples has been for much of the back half of the season. So I don't know. I honestly do think that Omaha is favorites here. And I think they probably could, like, it would not shock me if Omaha walk away as champs back to back.
Yeah, if they get past this one, they immediately jump to top 2 with Knoxville, assuming Knoxville gets through as well. But
I mean, give me Knoxville, Omaha in the semifinal. That very well could be your determining on who's going to be the favorite going into the final.
Yeah, 100% agreed. You watch this Omaha team play, and at their best, they just feel like they're a cut above. And that's a huge credit to Vincenzo Candela for what he's done down the stretch here. All right, before we jump leagues, any final League One thoughts, hot takes, something you want to get off your chest about whatever's happening in the playoffs? I will just start and say, I think Omaha's going to win the whole thing again.
Knoxville's my pick right now, but yeah, we'll see what happens if Omaha gets past Naples. Then that's going to definitely bump their stock up for me.
This, I would say, of the two, I mean, there are going to be some amazing matchups in the championship that we're about to talk about as well. And I just love the fact that League One, there are a couple of matchups in here that are straight up coin flips. Like you have no idea what nonsense is going to happen on the day. And yeah, it's just going to be a pleasure to tune in as a neutral.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to it. And unfortunately, we're going to start with maybe the most one-sided matchup of the championship field, which is number 1 seed Louisville City, a team that lost once all season long, 1 game, is taking on Detroit City, who they swept the season series against, didn't give up a goal against. It is going to be a Herculean task for Detroit to pull this off. Do we think they have a shot at doing so?
I mean,
that's 2 I means.
Not everybody all at once for Detroit there.
Detroit hasn't won in Louisville in the history of the series. I guess to their credit, we have seen teams take it to Louisville before. Remember, North Carolina had that 3-2 defeat against Louisville in the first round last year, and Rhode Island did beat Louisville at Lynn Family Stadium last season. But this Louisville team is on like the levels of like 2019 Phoenix in the regular season. They're on the levels of 2015 Rochester, who also lost just once all year. This is a very different Louisville City team that we're used to seeing. And the fact that they still haven't won a league title since 2019, I think they're going to be very eager to get back to the final. And I think they win and keep Detroit scoreless in this game.
Yeah. I was spending time prepping for this episode trying to think of ways that Detroit City get past, and here's the only house of matchsticks that I have built to try to make a case for Detroit. So, Detroit City's only win since September 6th was against North Carolina. Louisville City's only loss of the season came against North Carolina. By the transitive property, it is technically possible that Detroit City wins. It's like this
Bring
is
back the BCS.
Yeah, exactly. Scrap the playoff.
Yeah.
Let's just do a poll. No, I genuinely think that there is playoffs in general are fun because they create this sort of thing where anything can happen. And if Detroit City wins this game, it will be the most unjust thing that has happened in sports in decades. Detroit City does not have any business being in this position to defeat a team that has lost once the entire season. So the only just thing that can happen is a comfortable Louisville win, because it is like to spend 30 games deciding who is good in this league only for them to go out to Detroit would be truly like, it would make me question what is the point of all this.
Not even sure we'll get a shot on goal. I like that comment.
I was kind of going down the same route of, if any team is going to beat Louisville, how is it going to happen? And I think the two things you need are a defensive line that can be as physical as Louisville, which Detroit kind of sort of has, even if there maybe are some minor question marks. And I think you need to be able to transition past them quickly. Like that's what Rhode Island did last year in the playoffs. On that front, I really don't think Detroit has the tools to break Louisville down. Maybe you get a magic goal from Artest Diouf. That feels like a tall task going against Josh Jones and Sean Tosh. Unfortunately, I would love to see this Detroit team and some of these core players that have been around like make one last run in improving USL. This isn't going to be the matchup that makes it happen.
Yeah, if you're stumbling into these playoffs with 9 wins and your last match was a 1-1 draw with the Tampa Bay Rowdies that you're like really supposed to win that one, this is not happening.
Yeah.
And I think, Ryan, you said last week, and I think I fact checked this, that the last win on the road for Detroit came in April.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
They
the people at
won.
home.
They won, I think, 3 of their first 4 away games, and then did not win another away game the entire season.
Yeah, it was April
shout out
against
to
Phoenix.
Yeah. Turner Hawkins, who's involved with the club to a certain degree, was posting on Blue Sky. They earned more than a quarter of their points in April alone. Like they just had a really good April, and that was kind of it.
That they made the playoffs off the bat. Shrink the playoffs. The Jägermeister Cup exists for a reason. Shrink the playoffs.
Yeah. 6 teams, 4 teams. Who can say? But shrink the playoffs.
Max.
Go back to the old American League, National League. Just win your league, and then we have a final.
Listen, I've got a whole. I've spoken about this at length. Like USL Championship final between the 2 best teams, and then the League Cup is for everybody else. That's.
All right, we're
like
putting
that.
Detroit out of their misery, and we are moving on to what, frankly, is going to be another lopsided game. If you think, oh, hey, didn't I just see Tulsa and the Switchbacks play? You did. Last weekend, Tulsa beat the Switchbacks 3-0, but they are going to be the 1-8 matchup in the West. I will once again pose the question to y'all. Do we think there is the chance of an upset here?
No.
This might
I
be
mean,
The crowd goes mild. Yeah.
I mean, like the chance, the game will be played.
What I will say on the switchbacks front of this, I think they will have learned lessons from everything that went wrong last weekend. And this is a team that for the past 2 months really hasn't had Kyle Vassell going. He is the exact sort of striker with the frame and the skill set that can come in and challenge a Tulsa defense that has suffered some injuries and has changed formations down the stretch. At the same time, that's really trying to play the positive side here when we just saw their defense look so disorganized. They very evidently don't have an answer for Taylor Calhera. I don't love the Brendan Creek, Steven Echeverria pivot. I don't think it has enough muscle, particularly in this matchup. Maybe they can get a goal or two and improve on what we saw in the season finale, but it feels like Tulsa's game to lose entirely.
I mean, the Switchbacks have been outscored 14-3 in their final 7 games, entering this match with the worst goal differential of any playoff team right now at a really funny -12 to then make the postseason, especially as the reigning champions of the league as well. I think this is going to be Tulsa going through.
And speaking of goal difference, Tulsa, just to talk about like their level, the only 2 teams with a better goal difference than Tulsa are Louisville and Charleston. So like this is a team that they've defended well. They gave up 20 goals the whole season. Only one more than Louisville, which has been like generationally good. So I do want to say that like this Tulsa team deserves to be here. The Switchbacks don't. And again, it would be a total injustice for the Switchbacks team to advance. So I hope that Tulsa get the job done. I hate that this game just happened because I do agree with your point, John, that like I think it makes it tougher on Tulsa when you take somebody apart right before you have to play them in the playoffs.
For sure. And to quickly address the question in the chat here about Jamie Weber starting to come good, I mentioned the shape change for Tulsa. They're essentially running a 4-2-3-1 now. And Weber just gets to be that guy in the middle at the number 10 spot who's picking up the ball, finding teammates on the turn, not as much defensive responsibility. He was the key player last weekend, and I think he'll come up big if and when Tulsa beats Colorado Springs again. So this is why you pay a lot of money for a player, right? When he can come in and make a difference in the playoffs, and I expect to see that from Jamie Weber. All right, let's get to a far more interesting matchup as we get back to the Eastern Conference, where it's a rematch rather, of last season's postseason. Charleston Battery, number 2 seed, will be hosting Rhode Island FC. 2 teams that split the season series. You know this is going to be a pretty tight game and a defensive battle because of Rhode Island's track record. What, Phil, is going to be the formula for Rhode Island to pull off the upset?
Gum up the works and just try to hit them on the counter. I think like exploiting the wide areas where you know that Charleston like to get fullback, their wingbacks involved in the attack, like trying to play into that space in behind when you're going to have to soak up a lot of pressure. You're going to have to face a lot of shots. That's just the reality for Rhode Island. If they can make sure that those shots are coming from distance, from poor areas, like they stand a chance. And they're going to have to break really quickly against a Charleston team that, despite the fact that, yes, they, did not hit the heights of a Louisville this year, they are still a very solid team. They're allowing around a goal a game. So it's going to be tough to break them down. But Rhode Island is going to have to, they're going to have to try to unsettle them on the break. I think that's the only way. And just defend for their very lives.
Yeah, when Rhode Island beat Charleston earlier this year, there was a combined 12 shots in that entire game, and that was Rhode Island leading the shots advantage 7-5 and 4-2 in terms of shots on target. I feel like that's the blueprint there, that they need to basically limit the amount of chances that Charleston has in this match. I think one thing that Rhode Island does have going for them is that Charleston has kept just 2 clean sheets in their previous 12 games entering the playoffs, and the fact that Rhode Island has scored in 6 of their last 7 played shows that they're in decent enough form that they can frustrate the Battery in this game. And we clearly saw from last year's Eastern Conference Final, they know how to win in Charleston in the playoffs. That said, I feel like the Battery are going to advance past Rhode Island.
Yeah, and I think the argument for Rhode Island, they come into this game having allowed 5 goals in their last 8. They beat Charleston in the not too distant past. And in that match, I don't know if I've seen a team look as confident pressing upfield and then trusting a high back line, but one full of physical players that can battle in a duel. That's the balance that makes this team special. You throw in the fact that we're here in November or almost in November, and JJ Williams is hot once again. That means everything for Rhode Island. Like, the guy has 4 goals in his last 3 starts. If he can look anything like he did in the 2024 playoffs, they've got a real chance to do it. That said, this feels like disrespectful to a Charleston team that is maybe the deepest team in the league. They can roll out Myers and Jennings and Rubin and Arturo Rodriguez, and nobody can match that. Whenever you play the Battery, it feels like a matter of time until you give up a goal. It's going to take, like, Rhode Island will have to pitch a perfect game. How about that, to be able to pull off this upset? Yeah. Anything more? If not, we can launch into the 2 versus 7 out west, where the Sacramento Republic will be hosting Orange County SC. Orange County was kind of getting the upper hand when these teams met previously in the regular season in the Jägermeister Cup. There was a more recent matchup where Sacramento was resting a ton of players, but then brought in the big guns late. They won that game. I don't know how much stock I put in it. I think for a 2-7, this is more interesting than you would typically expect.
The vibes out of Orange County are weird. Like, form has been not that great, but then final day they get a win. It puts them into this specific matchup. And meanwhile, Sac Republic, while we've felt like really strongly about the quality, and they're one of, you know, as it was said in the comments, like, they're one of the few teams in the league with a double-digit positive goal difference. So it suggests that there's a lot there. They are just inconsistent. Like, for a team that's second place in the West, they just can't really find that, like, where they go on a big run of just winning like 5 on the bounce or something like that. And so it makes it tough to fully back the Sac Republic team, even in a game where I'm like, on paper, they should kind of cruise through. This ends up feeling like kind of a tough matchup. And because of the inconsistency on both sides, it's really hard to call. I think Sac Republic probably get it done. And it just ends up being like a very, very tough call because they just haven't, neither team has really found any sort of consistency. So it feels like a bit of a coin toss in that way.
I will say Orange County only lost 1 of their final 7 games played of the season, and that included draws against New Mexico, Charleston, and Louisville. Say what you will about the quality of those lineups that they may have been facing in those games, but like, they were getting results against teams who were finishing in the top 3 of their conferences at the time. And they, as we saw from the season series, they have been able to frustrate Sacramento a lot this season. I think this is a game that will be tied after 90, and I honestly think goes the distance to getting decided on penalties.
In which case, shout out to David Horn in the comments. You really trust having Danny Vitiello in that sort of situation when it matters the most. The more I think about this matchup, the more I think I'm just being cute about it. Sacramento is a really good soccer team. Neil Collins perennially gets his clubs to at least a conference final. They've got an elite defense. They have a number of offensive options, from Corey Bennett to Roro Lopez and Christian Pirano, that can break you down. I think the Roro Lopez retirement narrative kind of matters to the mentality this team is bringing to the table. Orange County won't make it easy. I think they're a underratedly hard team to stop when you think about Hegart dropping in from that left side and getting the overlaps from Dogman. all of that energy they put up on the right in transition. It'll take a lot for the Republic. And I think, Ryan, it's a good shout that maybe this goes to penalty kicks. But yeah, I have a tough time seeing Sacramento losing in the first round for a second straight year.
When Corey Bennett starts, or Corey Bennett scores a goal, Sacramento wins.
Yeah,
since he's joined the team, whenever he scored a goal, Sacramento has won.
Weird. I didn't realize Corey Bennett and Ryan JJ on that team with Independence DNA. So good for Sacramento for yeah. All right, let's move to one of the real toss-up games out east, where we've got North Carolina, who climbed to the number 3 seed in the final weekend by facing their first round opponent, Loudoun United. That was 1-0 in Virginia. This one will be played in Cary. I don't really know what to make of this game. Phil, help us out. What are you thinking?
I know that everybody watching this or listening to this is going to be expecting me to invoke the Lads protocol. And I am. Loudoun always does this shit. Advance against North Carolina. I don't know why I like this matchup for Loudoun in the first round. I think like the way that North Carolina plays to me is like a reactive sort of style.
100%.
And I think the thing that makes a difference in the playoffs, and I could be completely off. Maybe it works. Maybe they play a very defensive style and it works and it shuts everything down and they grab a goal on the counter and it all works out. I do think that the weapons that Loudoun has can unlock that sort of thing in a one-off game where you have these guys who can just score that pivotal goal, which changes everything and gets North Carolina like unsettled, out of shape, all that stuff. And all it will take is a single moment to throw off the sort of approach that I assume North Carolina is going to have. So to me, that is, I think that is why I feel like maybe Loudoun could actually get this done. I also really like the idea of the lame duck Ryan Martin making some kind of run here, because it just feels like Loudoun deserve that sort of where it's like Loudoun always does this shit. Maybe they don't give their players hot water. Maybe they fire their coach before the end of the season, but keep him in the job. Maybe they make a run in the playoffs because it would be the funniest possible outcome is Loudoun having their lame duck manager take them on some sort of title charge.
I think the weird thing with Loudoun right now is that they are very reliant on Abdelatif Abakora to break teams down on the dribble, drive that offense, and then hopefully score goals at the end of it. That's what makes Loudoun tick. Abakora has 1 goal since about mid-July. And without that goal-scoring presence, defenses are able to sit back and be more balanced, not break their spacing. It makes it easier to defend against Loudoun. That said, I've kind of been, for exactly what you mentioned, Phil, about the passivity of that system, I've been kind of down on North Carolina all year. They've got the 3rd worst expected goal difference in the league. Like, it's Las Vegas, Birmingham, and then North Carolina. That is not a great indicator when you get to the playoffs. I do think that the combination of Dolabella and Oleg Sanderson up top can really challenge Loudoun's defense, which is still pretty patchwork at this point. I lean North Carolina against my better judgment because of the home field advantage and because they've got those difference makers up top.
And I will say, at least entering this match on form, Loudoun has won just 1 of the last 7. They've scored the opening goal in just 2 of those games. In either game, they ended up they scored the opening goal in 3 of those games. Only 1 of those games they ended up winning. And I don't know. They've really struggled just offensively as of late. And I think North Carolina advance in what's probably going to be a rather low scoring game.
Yeah, feels right. Well, if that 3-6 is going to be low scoring, I just have an inkling that what we're getting with New Mexico and San Antonio might be a shootout. These teams have met 3 times. New Mexico won all 3 of those matchups, though one of them was on penalties in the Jägermeister Cup. That said, San Antonio comes out in the final weekend. They hang 5 goals on your El Paso Locomotive. Phil, do with that what you will, because El Paso is El Paso. There's something about this matchup. San Antonio getting hot at the right time, Mitchell Tainer stepping up, Jorge Hernandez being himself. It feels like a little bit of the old mentality monster magic. Am I wrong about that?
Wilmer Cabrera playing 5D chess by knowing that they had a home playoff game locked up before kickoff, and then giving San Antonio a bunch of confidence going into this matchup against New Mexico to potentially eliminate them is next level thinking and really seeing beyond the beyond the surface. I think it's shocking that both of these teams, again, the playoffs are really just bonkers, because why are either of these teams like where they are? New Mexico lost 10 games this season. Like, they are the 3rd seed, and they lost more games than El Paso, Phoenix. They lost just 1 less than Orange County down in 11. Like, this is a team that is capable of memes. And I think that's why San Antonio is so troubling at this very moment, because the most meme outcome is to go out in the first round as the 3rd seed at home to a San Antonio team that up until they hung 5 on El Paso hadn't scored in like a month. And so, yeah, I think San Antonio winning is the funniest possible outcome. And the fact that we're even talking about it as being possible is sort of like an indictment of where New Mexico is, like where we should be feeling much more solid about them as a 3 seed right now. And I've said it from the beginning of the season. I don't trust this New Mexico team. I don't think they're as good as sort of their placement in the league. 45 goals for, 41 against across a 30 game season. Yeah, I have no reason to trust them getting a result against San Antonio, even at home.
I would say New Mexico hasn't lost to San Antonio since 2023. And while San Antonio is completely in style as they clinched a playoff spot, ending their Hobbit trilogy level goalless drought to get into the postseason here is impressive. I do think form matters. New Mexico has been unbeaten in their last 7 games entering the playoffs, and they've scored in each one of those games as well. So I'm completely with you, John, that this game should be a shootout, and it should be a really fun game to watch. But yeah, just very strangely this season, for a team that's finished 3rd, we didn't really talk about New Mexico a whole lot on the show this year. And even the times we did talk about them, it was just kind of when they were at the losing end of games, kind of in a surprise. So I do think New Mexico advances for the home field advantage in a really fun, high-scoring game. But yeah, San Antonio could very well have a chance.
And I think that could be partially my fault that we don't talk about New Mexico except in a negative light. So I apologize.
I will say with New Mexico, when have they had a resounding win? It's been a lot of baffling losses and a lot of games where they scrape by. And frankly, the comment we got that was they're either going to lose in the first round, and Frank Dolan here, or they're going to make it to the final and there's no in between. That feels like the energy with this club for whatever reason. And within this specific matchup, I'm going to be really, really worried if they choose Gideon Zelalem as the number 6. He is absolutely wrong for this game. And I'm so curious to see if Taylor Maples continues to play right back, knowing that it's going to be a one-on-one against Jorge Hernandez. That feels like a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, New Mexico, fewest draws of any team in the Western Conference. So you can bet that it won't end tied, essentially. Odds are.
Yeah. All right. Why is it not adding to stage? Let's swing back over to the number 4 versus number 5 seed in the East as the Pittsburgh Riverhounds take on a Hartford Athletic team against whom they swept the season series. Pittsburgh sneaky in very good form as they get into the playoffs. They're doing their defensive thing. Hartford, a little bit flat after winning the Jägermeister Cup final, but in getting that trophy itself, they've shown they can do it in a single elimination format. Going to be an interesting one at Highmark. How are we feeling?
Yeah, they finished level on points. The thing that I think Hartford has going for them is they score. Like they have been firing the whole back half of the season. They got to a point in this year where they were playing somewhat solidly defensively. And I think the elephant in the room is the fact that Bob Lilly is not going to be on the sideline. And I think that has a material impact on this Riverhounds team. Not to say that it didn't impact their league form in the sense that they all of a sudden fell off a cliff. And I'm just, from a mentality perspective, in a playoff game where you may need that 1 degree, that one little, percent more effort, more whatever. I kind of feel like this maybe is a perfect storm for Hartford to go to Highmark and get the result. And I just believe in Hartford's goal scoring, and in the playoffs, that just is such a factor in whether someone can advance. Is literally, can you put the ball in the back of the net when it matters?
And historically speaking, Hartford hasn't won at Highmark since 2020, but this year has just been beyond the expectations for Hartford Athletic. I mean, they've already lifted a silverware on the season, and they came within a very close chance at hosting a home playoff game. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for Hartford Athletic to kind of just rewrite their legacy as a club. The fact that this team has been almost toiling away in mediocrity for pretty much their entire existence now has a chance to go into one of the toughest places to play and walk out with the result. And let's remember that Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game since 2022 and haven't won a home playoff game since 2019. So at least more recently than the Steelers have. But I still think Hartford has a decent chance, just knowing that history from Pittsburgh as well, that I'm going to back them to advance.
I don't think you can underrate the mental side of things for Hartford, given what happened in the last matchup and the accusations. They've known about the matchup for 7 days, but they're metaphorically circling it on the calendar. I think this means everything to them. In terms of the game itself, they've got some of those bench options that you really love to have in the playoffs. Like Alex, you mentioned Swaybe Maru for Charlotte. Kyle Edwards is that player in the championship, 8 or 9 goals off the bench this year. Haji Berry doesn't start for Hartford. Imagine bringing a former MVP on in the 60th minute. That'll be a huge deal. At the end of the day, I like that for Hartford, and I think they've got a puncher's chance. Pittsburgh is a machine. This defense is as good as it's ever been. Robbie Mertz, I just submitted my all-league ballot. I think Robbie Mertz is an all-league player this year. He's been incredible for them. Augie Williams feels like the question mark. He's only got 2 goals in 9 career playoff appearances. If he can step up to the plate and be the player we know he can be, not only will Pittsburgh win this one, but I think they've got a legit chance to be the dark horse in the East.
Worth mentioning too that for as good as Pittsburgh's defense was, 28 goals, a lot less than a goal a game, 32 goals the entire season from a playoff team is crazy. The fewest goals for of any team bar Miami.
Wow.
Birmingham scored more goals than Pittsburgh this year. So that shows you how bad Birmingham defense.
Yeah.
But still, 36-32. That's tough.
Wild. All right, let's get out of here with one final game close to home for you, Phil, where it's Phoenix Rising and the El Paso Locomotive, who have only played insane matches this season. That is 3 games in total. That's 9 goals apiece across those 3 games. What I will say is this is not the Phoenix Rising team that participated in those prior matches. Since switching to a back three shape over the past month or so, they're, I think, 3 for 3 with clean sheets. They've only given up 0.6 XG per match. They look different, and that hasn't come at the expense of a really good counter centered on Hope Avievu as a false nine. El Paso, I will hand it off to you with whatever is happening on that side, Phil.
Well, I'll start just by saying that 9-9 on aggregate over the season mean this has 0-0 written all over it. I will say that El Paso as a team far exceeded my expectations this season. And they have a positive 2 goal difference. So I think like the reality of this El Paso team and sort of where they ended up in terms of they are hosting a home playoff game, they are still a team that drew more games than they won and lost one less game than they won. Right. So like this is a very inconsistent team that rode a little bit of luck and a little bit of the simulation to a home playoff game. I think fitness concerns and like when you put the lineups side by side, there is a innate thinness to El Paso's team.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond sort of that first 11 and maybe like the first or second guys off the bench, Phoenix have more options in a playoff game, particularly if it goes to extra time. Like this is the sort of thing that does trouble me with this El Paso side is that they just don't have the depth available and like the ability to change games differentially off the bench. The other thing is that they are prone to bozo behavior like early in matches, which can unravel them. And when you've got this, like when you've got that sort of stuff going on, it just makes playoff games really difficult because if you have this sort of mentality slip or whatever, where all it takes is like one mistake and then it's just over. Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Like you need a level of resilience in the playoffs. You need a level of being able to like take a punch. And unfortunately, this El Paso team just does not have that. And I can easily foresee like an early Phoenix goal in this game being enough, right? To just like completely unsettle and turn the tide of this game. Of the games, this might be the toughest one to call because there's a Jekyll and Hyde version of both of these sides. And like whichever one of each shows up could mean that this game ends 4-0 either way, or they, you know, the good versions both show up and we're talking about like a 1-1 that goes to pens.
I had this game actually circled in terms of the first round as the one that I was most looking forward to watching as a neutral, just given these historical matchups between both teams. But the fact that Phoenix has cleaned it up in terms of at least clean sheets and later down the stretch, that they've gone 4.5 hours since they last conceded a goal, that this could very well be something that Phoenix gets the upset here, at least seeding wise, and advances towards the next round.
And it's worth mentioning that when Phoenix had that 4-4 at Southwest University Park early in the season, that was a very poor Phoenix performance in that El Paso like jumped all over and they still fought back to get the point. Now there's some, you know, I will just say that the fourth goal is he could try to hit that 1,000 more times and never score. That being said, like they fought back from that deficit, and that was a far worse version of Phoenix than what we've seen recently, to your point, John, earlier. So
yeah, and I think the thing for Phoenix that you have to worry about is the health at the wingback spots. That was really why you changed systems in the first place. From what I understand, Colin Smith will not be available in this game, which means it's Asela Sang, a very natural center back on that right side, and Pop Marboy behind him. Pop Marboy, who's really struggled to find his footing. really throughout the 2025 season. That's the axis where you got to stop Mondo Moreno and you can't give up those supporting runs to Gabby Torres. That feels exploitable for El Paso in a way that's promising. I just don't trust the discipline of the Locomotive back line enough to think that they're going to win this game. So going Phoenix. All right. Hey, that was every playoff matchup.
We did
Once again, like I did for League One, I will say, who's going to win it all?
Louisville.
I'm going Louisville. I'm not gonna bet against them.
Yeah.
Okay, in the non-Louisville department, because we're all in agreement here, who's going to win?
Charleston.
That's cheating, but sure.
I think the West is going to be an absolute rock fight.
Yeah, how about who's going to win the West, since we're very top-heavy out east?
I don't know. Sac Republic. When chips are down and it's a knockout format, Sac Republic.
I like it. I like it.
Give me Tulsa.
Ryan?
The winner of the Sacramento, New Mexico matchup.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
The three of the two.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm choosing Tulsa or Phoenix. I really like what Rising's doing right now. All right. So that's it. We're ready for the playoffs. Go watch it this weekend. In the meantime, before we get out of here, Ryan, what have you been watching, doing, want to share lately?
Yeah, so it's been raining a lot here in Charlotte lately, so I haven't been able to run outside, and I've had to, at least for the runs I've done, I've had to go on a treadmill, at least in my apartment, and it's reminded me I'm as much as I love running, I'm not a running on a treadmill type of person. It just I feel like I hamster on a wheel at that point, and I don't push myself as hard. So I'm gonna have to learn to start liking liking running on a treadmill lately.
I feel like my gait is just wrong, and I don't know why the mind to muscle connection goes that way. But yeah, not a treadmill guy at all. All right, Alex, how about you?
Yeah, I haven't really been watching anything new. Been pretty social lately, getting out of the house over the last few days. So yeah, nothing new here. Still blazing my way through What We Do in the Shadows.
Solid.
Nice.
Phil, how about you?
Well, aside from the chair company, obviously. So the other day, or over the weekend, me and my wife heard something randomly that reminded us of La La Land. And we were like, you know what? Let's watch La La Land, because if they're I know that retroactively that movie has become a meme, and that movie fucking rocks. I unabashedly, it's cringe, and I fucking love that movie.
I tend to agree with that. I tend to agree with you, Phil.
Anyone who's like, "Oh, that movie is cringe," get off your high horse and be romantic.
It is. I mean, it absolutely is.
A person,
it's fun.
A person I respect deeply said that cringe shed the carceral thinking of cringe culture. Cringe is a prison of the mind. Do what makes you happy, basically. But yeah, so we watched La La Land, and it's just a good movie, and yeah, the musical vibe of it, in terms of it feeling like a staged musical on film, is it's just great. So I've just really enjoyed watching it. It's been a while since I've watched it. So
I'll tell you, the first time I watched that film, I had no idea it was a musical. I had no idea.
Oh, love that.
None whatsoever.
You're like,
I
okay.
just started watching it I was over at a friend's house. It was on, and we started watching it, and I was like, okay, this is what we're getting into here.
You thought that Ryan Gosling played cornerback for the Los Angeles Rams.
I just thought it was going to be some quirky indie. I thought honestly, I was a little bit out of touch at the time, and I thought it was just going to be some quirky indie film or something. And yeah, and oh, this is a musical. Okay, we're doing this.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I've been invited by the chat to talk about The Lowdown, so I will talk about The Lowdown. It's airing on FX/Hulu right now. Ethan Hawke is basically like a private investigator, kind of a journalist as well, wandering around Tulsa trying to investigate the murder of a guy who's running for governor. That sounds heavy, but it's a very funny show. It's weird in a good way. If anyone watched Reservation Dogs, it's the same creator as that on FX. So yeah, hearty recommendation for what they're doing with The Lowdown over there.
Wandering
you're
around
saying is-
Tulsa trying to figure out who's going to win.
I know.
There.
I'm waiting for One OK Stadium to show up
Yeah.
there at some point. Yeah.
So you're saying is after I finish What We Do in the Shadows, I should go directly to The Lowdown. 'cause
Roll right
it's
in.
Also,
Yep.
yeah, the same.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody that watched live. Thank you to anybody who's in the podcast feed. Again, enjoy the playoffs. We'll be back here to recap it next week. And for one and only time tonight, here is Ellen.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist Podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.